Good morning, dear students. I am coming up with another disease that is also infectious disease, which can pass from one organism to other organism. That is HIV/AIDS. AIDS is the disease, and it can be spelled as acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. And we're going to break down the whole content of disease called AIDS into several categories. How it has been started here discussed. What is the transmittive methods, what is the life cycle of HIV virus in the body, and how to detect, and also how to prevent the HIV AIDS to not to get transmitted. Okay, let's start from the beginning here. The full form of AIDS is acquired, taking something. But acquired means taking something, it can be considered as infectious disease. Immunodeficiency means which can deficit the immune system in the body and which can create variable number of diseases together called as syndrome. The very first case is reported in 1981, and it has been spread all across the world, killing almost 25 million people in the world. And the causative organism is HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, and it belonged to a category called retroviruses. And how it can be transmitted? You see, there are several ways HIV virus can transmit from infected person to a healthy person. Number one is by sexual method, sexual contact, transfusion of contaminated blood and their products like syringes, use of syringes to transfuse the blood, and any infected person blood has been transfused to another person, it can be transmitted. Sharing the infected needles in case of intravenous drug abusers, infected mother to child. So these are the several transmittive methods by which virus can be transmitted. So especially like having multiple number of sexual partners, drug addicts especially, are the ones who suffer more. And here you can see there is a question raised. Do you know when do people need repeated blood transfusion? Find out and make a list of such conditions. We have to make a list. And it is important to note that HIV/AIDS is not spread by mere touch. And this is the most important thing, that physical contact doesn't make a person to acquire the HIV virus. It is spread only through the body fluids like blood, very little traces of um, through this saliva, but very rarely it happens. But the reproductive fluids like semen and vaginal fluids are the best parts through which virus can be passed on. And you can see a person can be isolated from others. There is always a time lag between infected person to appear the HIV/AIDS symptoms, and it can vary. That means the period for raising the symptoms can vary from few months to preferably many, like a few years also. Sometimes some people even living asymptomatic now also without showing any disease. But death is inevitable, like it is written right over here. Okay, let's see the life cycle of HIV virus. You see here, we're going according to the textbook only. The virus have two parts, one protein coat and the RNA core. Once if it infects the animal cell like this, you see the genetic material is the only material that can pass through into the cell, but not the viral coat. Once the RNA enters into the cell body, the viral body carry an enzyme called reverse transcriptase. Okay, remember reverse transcriptase, the name itself tells you reverse transcriptase. Transcription is formation of RNA from DNA, right? So this is DNA and this is RNA transcription. But what do you mean by reverse transcription? RNA forming DNA, and this is catalyzed by an enzyme called reverse transcriptase. So once the RNA enters, with the help of reverse transcriptase, a new DNA will be formed. Now this DNA will go into the nucleus and enters into the nuclear plasm of the nucleus, and it gets incorporated into the host DNA, where with that transcription takes place, causing the new RNA will formation takes place. Along with it, in the cytoplasm, protein coats are formed, and they are ready to infect the new animal cell. So they break the new cell, and the newly formed viruses can come out and then start attacking the new cells. That is how infection spread. That is how HIV life cycle takes place. And here you can see how to detect. There is something has been written here. Especially these animal cells, like where HIV virus infect is the T lymphocyte cells. HIV enters the helper T lymphocyte cells, and they replicate according what we have heard right now, and decreases the number of T lymphocytes. What is the role of T lymphocytes? T lymphocytes are acting like a defense mechanism. They participate in defense mechanism where they go and attack any disease causing pathogens. Imagine that if the T lymphocytes number gets decreased, it will cause the body to become vulnerable, and the defense mechanism collapses. So it start like the person becomes so vulnerable to all other different types of disease causing pathogens. So the body is ready to take up as many as infectious diseases into the body, where it start creating so many symptoms like diarrhea, weight loss, and it will the body will receive many varieties of infectious causing diseases. And you can see the person starts suffering from infections that could have been otherwise overcome, such as those due to the bacterial, especially mycobacterium, and viruses, other viruses, fungal diseases, and parasites like toxoplasma are some of the dangerous bacterial infections which start creating variety of diseases. And how to diagnose? And there is one particular test called enzyme linked immunosorbent assay, which is help in predicting the presence of HIV virus in the body. So treatment of AIDS with antiretroviral drugs is also partially effective. They can only prolong the life of a patient but not prevent the death. So this is the most important one. So there are certain drugs available. What they do is simply prolong the lifespan of the person, uh, like the duration, but it will not prevent the death, which is inevitable. So there is no cure to the AIDS. And here are some basic preventive methods. Since there is no cure, prevention is the only best option. So HIV virus more often spread due to the conscious behavior pattern, is not something that happens inadvertently, like pneumonia or typhoid. Of course, infection is in blood transfusion patients. Newborn from mother may take due to the poor monitoring only. Like we cannot do that. We cannot help spreading it. The only excuse may be ignorance. This is the most important thing. Don't die of ignorance. In our country, there are certain NGOs like National AIDS Control Organization (NACO), and they are involved in educating people not to spread the HIV/AIDS. who has started a number of programs to prevent the spread of HIV infection, making blood banks safe from HIV, ensuring use of disposable needles, syringes, and especially in public and private hospitals, and distribution of free condoms, and also controlling the drug abuse, and advocating safe sex and promoting regular checkups for HIV in susceptible population, and some steps which have been taken by the World Health Organization. Infection with HIV or having AIDS is something that should not be hidden. That's important. Since then, the infection may spread to many more people. If it is hidden, if a person not goes to the doctor, it is like simply causing that person to spread. HIV infected people need help and sympathy instead of being shunned by the society, unless society recognizes it as a problem to be dealt with in a collective manner. The chances of wider spread of the disease increased manifold. It can increase also. It is a malady that can only be tackled by the society and medical fraternity acting together. So society and clinical medical fraternity must act together to prevent it. This is what all about HIV virus.